Tim's here. All right. Well, there we go. So welcome everybody to Talking Niagara this morning. Good morning, Dave. How are you?
No, I'm pretty good in my COVID cave.
And that's it. Have you done another test, or are you?
Just this morning I did one.
So, are
Two
you
bold red
clear or-
lines.
Pardon me?
Two bold red lines. Although I don't feel sick at all.
Okay.
Yesterday I left and went for a walk down and down halfway down to Niagara on the Lake from Queenston, whereas not too many people walk, so I walked there. But of course, 4 people blocked the pathway in front of me when I was going for my walk, so I had to stay way back until they dispersed. Like I picked a place for.
That is so annoying, especially when you're walking faster than somebody else. But hey, I'm never walking faster than anybody else. I went from being one of the fastest people walking on the planet to one of the slowest people walking on the planet. It comes to something when you got a 58-year-old woman going past you.
Well, look, I was so I was just walking and they stopped and 4 people stopped and blabbed and blabbed and blabbed and blabbed and blabbed and blabbed. And I normally I would have just walked through them and said, excuse me, and walked on. But of course I got COVID. I can't do that, right? Because I'd be too close.
Mr. Responsible. I praise you.
That's me, Mr. Responsible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, how come my halo doesn't show up here?
You what?
My halo.
How come, there isn't one.
Is there something wrong with the camera here?
There is no halo. There's no halo. There isn't one. Yeah, okay.
Well, there's something sticking up.
That's a devil's horns.
Well, no. So, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Talking Niagara. Well, probably not too many people getting COVID anymore, but I did. I don't know if I brought it from Costa Rica. Whether I got it. It takes a little while to gestate, though. It takes one in order for it to show up on a test. You have to have been exposed to it, and 1, 2, 3, at least 3 days later before it shows up on the test. Now, I had an argument with Paul K. Lemire online about the rapid test. He says they're no good, they're rotten. It's a big scamorama, but it's not. They are not very good in the very beginnings of COVID. They don't show up on. Yeah. There are a lot of people getting it, Dave Wheeler. Oh, okay. Okay, thanks.
And of course, planes are the worst spreaders, yeah. And where did you go? You went on a plane, didn't you?
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And I got home on a Sunday night, really, but I didn't get home till the wee hour, about 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah,
on Monday.
Yeah, well, there you go. There you go. All right. So, what I was looking for was that. Okay. Niagara Police members of both sides, Niagara Police Services members from both sides of the border preparing for their annual tug-of-war at the Rainbow Bridge on Saturday, May the 11th. So it's not this Saturday, it's the Saturday beyond next.
Yeah.
Right. And hey, I wish them well. Basically, this has been going for 56 years. Wow, 56 years. Hey, I wouldn't want to be the person behind them in the queue to get over the bridge on May 11th.
Well, I can tell you one thing, that the cops nowadays are in much better shape than they were before. When they started doing this, they used to have these super huge obese guys at what they called the anchor.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe the size of some of them. I don't even know how they even got uniforms. And and I do remember getting threatened by a cop in the United States in Niagara Falls, New York. And the guy was the guy was probably about 300 pounds and 5 foot. You know, I would say. Anyway, he was huge around. He had a billy club, and he's going to hit me with it. He said, so. That was the cop then. The cops now are in pretty good shape.
Yeah.
I think they even when they go to the donut shop, they go for multigrain donuts.
Yeah. What I want to know about Dave and everybody, and the newspaper hasn't published this. I want the statistics, right? Which is the most successful team here? Which one has won most of the time? Who won the last international tug? Yeah, I want to know all the damning things. I want to know who the bad man is on the Canadian side. I want to know who the bad man is on the American side, right? And I just want to know, right? Particularly want to know about the coach who shouts pull, right? Because he's the loudest guy on the bridge.
Well, yeah, what they try to do is get a rhythm of pulling. And if you I don't know, the Canadian team I think had the advantage by 1 or 2 for a while. I'm not so sure how it's been. I can't remember now. I'll look it up right now.
Yeah, I want the statistics. I want the history of this event. I want the build up. I want it in the press every day for the next 2 week and a bit.
Yes, well,
no. I mean, this is our premier sporting event here.
Yeah, and you don't find tug-of-wars being used anymore. Tug-of-wars used to be a very common thing, and I really haven't seen or heard much about a tug-of-war for a very long time, and they're keeping it alive here. But it used to be that you'd always have a tug-of-war between like fire departments, police departments.
Yeah.
At camp, like or at picnics, right? At picnics, they used to divide people up and have a tug of war. And I just put tug of war Niagara results to see what happens. Cops test their mettle again. Let's see.
Yeah, well, anyway, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We'll get back to it. It's a bit of fun anyway, and just to show that hey, the police have got a bit of humor as well.
Yeah, they're not going into that because it's pretty tough for the journalists to look back all that 56 years. My goodness.
Yeah. All right. Well, I wish them well, both sides, right? But Canada. If you don't win, you will be forever in shame, and we won't give you the evidence you need to win your cases.
Tim Hortons is going to ban you.
There you go. That might be the best thing for them. Yeah. Okay. All right. So moving on. I love those bits of fun. Moving on, the length of council meetings. Councillors unanimously supported Mike Strange's motion calling upon staff to update the municipality's procedural code. And while you were away, I spoke with Laurie Lococo about this one, and she told me she'd done quite a bit of investigation into the rules about council meetings, and she was basically said that she was concerned and suggested adding some meetings to our schedule, right? So that's what her response is. I don't know how. I know we did add some meetings, but they were for specific things, such as budget education or the official plan, not because we couldn't get all the items done in one meeting. And I think I would have to say from my witnessing of meetings, when I first watched meetings back in 2015, I'd say they were a lot shorter than they are now. And he was right to point out the fact that at the time this was debated, it was already 10 to 11 at night.
Yeah, well, one of the things they could do is the in-camera meetings. Cannot they have the in-camera meeting at a separate day?
That's actually what I was thinking. You could, if the meeting for council starts at 4 o'clock on a Tuesday, could they have the in-camera meeting at 1 o'clock on a Tuesday, let's say, or even 5 o'clock on a Monday?
Yeah, the in-camera meeting is, or have it before the meeting begins for the public. But it's still a very long day for the councillors, and you want them to be pretty sharp if you can. Long, boring meetings like this really takes it out of you because you lose your focus.
Yeah.
Now the other thing I would suggest is that the blabathon that the councillors do. How many times we see councillors going, "Oh, I think this is a wonderful project," and "Oh, my congratulations, this is a beautiful, wonderful program, and it will really fit into the." And then the next one comes up and says the same thing, because each one thinks they have to be saying something on air so that their presence is being felt. And if they can knock off that stuff, and Mike Strange is just as guilty as anyone on that one.
He has been, yeah. And basically, it's like I've seen it 100 times with many councillors. Oh, it's my time for an election speech. I will give 4 or 5 minutes about how brilliant this project is so that you, members of the public, are going to see me out there and see me as the person to vote for at the next election.
Yeah, they feel, of course,
they never say those words, but that's more or less why they're doing it, right?
Yeah, and then basically they feel that their presence has to be felt. You know, it's like I don't know. It's like the guy that scores a touchdown and 6 other guys jump on him so they can get on the camera.
Yeah. Well, actually, there's a lot of this I've seen with city council meetings that there's a proposal put up. You know, hey, we propose whatever it is, it doesn't matter what, and you can just generally by a glance around the room you can see that pretty well everybody's nodding their head, and there's not really any need to speak about it. And actually what should be happening next is Councillor Baldinelli stands up and says, I propose a motion that we accept this proposal, right? And then Councillor Patel follows up and says, I second that. And now we should be up for a vote.
Yeah, it should. Yeah, just and whoever brings a motion or whatever, I mean, people want to speak to it. They want to speak to it after it's been approved and all that flowery language about how wonderful, how terrific, and I really feel this is a gift for the city and all that. No, I'll keep it down to bare minimum. And there is this 5-minute rule, apparently. Well, the 5-minute rule is not a rule, it's just a guideline. Yeah. But there was a few people there that spoke for more than 10 minutes the other night, and a handful of people that spoke over 5 minutes. You could cut them down before they begin to speak. You could tell them, look, make it brief. You've got 5 minutes. So if somebody comes for the proposal for a brand new pool, or Dave Wheeler comes for tells everybody how wonderful Kiwanis is, he's got to shut up after 5 minutes.
Well, I get that, because members of the public are allowed to have their say, particularly about planning issues. And okay, so this is the one portion of the meeting that they can't really control. So you've got a controversial new development, and 150 people are at City Hall protesting it. You're not going to get through your council meeting particularly quickly, but it would be nice to be able to adjourn it once you've got to a particular position. Now, the idea that, hey, maybe with these public meetings, you've got you've got on average, let's say 25 minutes to get through them, all. You've got this section that comes from the city planner that introduces the item. You've got discussion about the item. You've got then complaints or compliments from the city. You've then got a 5 to 10 or so often 15 to 20 minute presentation by the developer or the developer's representative.
Yes. Anyway, some of those things, yes, they have to be at length, and that's the serious part. But even in the very beginning of the meeting, where the mayor does a lot of presentations and all that, perhaps that can be left to another day as well. Have a separate day for all of that.
I think that's important. I think that's important. That should go on the day.
Because all right, well, then we'll cut it down to the quick thing. They do linger on, though. They do linger on. They go blah, 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 blah. And they both go back and forth, and everybody tells everybody how wonderful they are. That's fine. But the real meat and potatoes is the planning and all of that stuff. And those things they can't limit the time, as you said. So they have to just get on with it and get it done. And they're just going to have to live with how long that takes. But all other parts of the meeting can be trimmed down. And I can't really see it really going to happen because the counselors like to be effusive about how wonderful things are sometimes.
Yeah. And just basically food for thought is that when I was first watching the council meetings back in 2015 on the video, usually they were done by between 9 o'clock to 9:30. Yes, there was 4 o'clock. There was that what do you call it? There was that in camera. Usually 5 o'clock they were back from in camera, 5 to 5:30, and we were done by about 9 to 9:30. Now we're not into off the in camera phase until 6 o'clock, which is telling in itself because people know that I don't like in camera meetings. There's too much being discussed there. We don't know what is being discussed there, but again, you're right that in camera could be moved to another day. It could be either held, let's say 1 o'clock on the Tuesday, so a separate meeting, so they can have their in camera meeting, go have tea, and then come back for the council meeting. So 5 o'clock you could have the council meeting start, and it'd be the real public part of the council meeting.
Yeah, what you do is you make the public sit into the stands for however long the in-camera meetings are, and then sometimes they're quite long.
Yeah.
So to take the in-camera meeting out, put it either at the very end where the public can leave, or because the public is not going to be privy to that anyway. It's not being covered.
Yeah.
So the counselors themselves are the only ones that are privy to that. They're the only ones that know what's going on there. So the in-camera meeting can happen before the meeting that is broadcast, to have people invite people into the gallery to watch a
and if we start
meeting, and then partway through the meeting take off an in-camera meeting that might last an hour, and you've got all these people and staff and everything else just kind of waiting around. That is actually just plain rude and inconsiderate.
Yeah. And first of all, people who know me would say that they know that I don't like in-camera meetings anyway. A lot of what's discussed in camera at City Hall should be discussed in open. But I agree that there are reasons for in-camera meetings, let's say like staff discipline matters, that have to be held in private. Absolutely 100% agree with that. Now, the question here is that I just think that the main public part of the city council meeting, if you could say that guarantees to start at 5 o'clock on the Tuesday, I think that would help a lot with this. And I'm not saying that what Mike has said about the 5-minute rule hasn't got any value. I do appreciate the 5-minute rule, and in many instances, maybe you could start a session where some of these sessions where you could say, a councillor might well be as a motion on the table, and they say, can we have a 5-minute rule for this discussion?
Well, I think the idea of starting exactly when you're supposed to, 5 p.m., come hell or high water, unless there's an actual special reason why, like a massive blizzard or something. But if you're not there on time, if you're a counselor or staff member that's not there on time, that's down to you. And perhaps maybe even they have a fine. And whatever the time their break is, they get 10 minutes, that's it, and they're back. And they start. They don't wait for anybody to drift back. They start again. And that's how real meetings begin. They begin at 5, or they begin at the time that said, and then they have a 10-minute break, and it will be 10 minutes or 15, whatever they want, 15 minutes or whatever. And exactly at that 15, they begin the meeting again. If you're not back in the meeting, then that's down to you. Pretty soon after you're embarrassed a few times of dragging your bum in there, then you'll sort yourself out.
And Toastmasters rules about and how Toastmasters manages its meetings. I know they're nowhere near as complex as a city council meeting, but they all run on modified Robert's rules.
Yeah, one way or another.
Yeah, and the whole point being is, in fact, actually, Robert's rules, most of Western parliaments operate some form of version of Robert's rule.
And you won't be able to get a meeting going. You won't be able to have a meeting or discussion without them. Yeah, because meetings will break down into confusion, chaos, and somebody will try to dominate the time and everything.
Well, the French may have slightly different rules, and the Germans may have slightly different rules, but they're still based upon a common rules of procedure of, parliamentary.
Wait a minute. No. Everyone else will make their rules, and they'll make them the same as everyone else's, and then the French will make theirs different.
True. And then the Italians go off for lunch.
And then the Italians don't make the rules, but don't oblige them at all. They're in the book.
They don't make the rules. They're out to lunch.
Yeah.
The biggest problem with the Italians is European Union make rules about certain things that are going on, and every parliament is supposed to just put them into force. And the Italians never put them into force. because they got such a backlog in their parliament, and hey, they get rid of it, they're getting a new prime minister next month.
Yeah. So anyway,
the
meetings are too long, and there are, and Mike Strange is right, but he's not being the only one, basically, but. This is something actually he's doing that's kind of positive rather than just saying awesome all the time. And so he's starting to become a real counselor, not just a piece of fluff, one of the boys. So this is good on Mike. He's become a mature council member, it seems, or at least he's headed that way. And this is a very good thing for the council itself. And if that council has to split up into two meetings in a week to make up for, the in-camera meetings particularly.
Yeah.
And those times they have the in-camera meetings, maybe they can have the other stuff happen. But they are long and lengthy. But remember too that our city is getting bigger and more complicated.
Yeah, it is.
It's not that little seasonal place in the Niagara Peninsula that now it's expanding quite a bit, and it's getting bigger all the time, and it's got big world problems now, not the sort of sleepy little town problems it used to have.
Yeah, I'm talking about that. I've actually a slideshow that I was going to send you by mail. So I meant to send it last night and I forgot. Which I got from the Greater Niagara Chamber of Commerce. And basically, this is actually about the Niagara economy, and I think you'll find it interesting. I'd like to discuss it a little bit on a future show. But you're right. The changing nature of our city is important thing, right? And I'm supportive of. Do we need to sort out and have like bi-weekly meetings for city council?
Perhaps, but quite definitely that. And I'll have to go back to the in-camera meeting, because even if you try to watch it. I was trying to watch it on YouTube, and I keep getting first of all, it doesn't start on time, and then then you have the in-camera meetings eating up a whole section of the interior of it. And so you just get into it, and then the in-camera meeting comes, and then you got to wait, or you got to scroll forward, that kind of thing. So it's not really even worth watching the council meeting the night it is. It's better off to get it on YouTube later, and so that you could just speed it through the in-camera stuff. But the average person who is there trying to make a point and have to wait all this time. And now there's another thing too that they can do for those people who are going to speak at the council meeting, is give them a time to come. That you will be your allotment, we will speak on this subject between 9 and 9:30. So please show up 10 to 9, and we're going to get you in there between 9 and 9:30. What happens is somebody shows up at the beginning of the meeting and then has to stay there for the long 6 hours before they can speak to the matter they wish.
Absolutely, and that's a problem, right? And it would be nice to be able to, for members of the public, respect their time and know that, hey, you've got to invite they should be invited for for coming at a specific time.
Yeah, and again, so this has to be tightened up a bit. Yeah, this is just not a club meeting anymore.
Yeah.
It is a professional council meeting with the professional people that work at staff at City Hall. We don't want to overburden them in their time as well. You know, they have things to say. Hi, Robert. Anyway, they have things to say, things to get done, and so the efficiency is the name of the game. And if they have to bring in an efficiency expert or somebody that can give them advice, like we can sound off all we want, nobody's going to listen to us because everybody's saying the same sort of thing we are. And all of what we have been saying has occurred to them very more than once, obviously, because they're the ones stuck in there. And so Mike Cushman says in-camera meeting on heavy contamination where taxpayers have to foot the bill with the region. This cost how much? What did they find? What is heavy contamination? As I told Mike before, I'm going to be woke with it. I'm going to be woke with this. He says heavy contamination, and I'm saying you have no right to fat shame contamination.
Well, actually, here's the question: why should a subject like that be part of a in-camera meeting? It has, I would like to know the section of the Municipal Act that is enacted for enable them to discuss that. They must come up with that section of the Act that enables them to discuss that in camera, because that sort of stuff is not in camera. No way, no how, not today, not ever.
Yes, well, we're breaching into another subject altogether, and that's a good point. Maybe we should return to it tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay. So moving on. I think that's gotten. I think. Thank you, Mike Strange, for doing that. I actually tried to get him on the show while you were away. I called him 2 or 3 times, never got an answer. Just the way it is, right?
He doesn't like you.
No, well, I bumped into him on a number of occasions and never had a problem with him, right?
Well, he can't do anything. He was an Olympic boxer, so he can't do what he wants to do.
Well, actually, he and I swap Olympic chats, because but for the fact that that my parents, I was young and my parents wouldn't let me go to the the British training sessions. I would have been on the Montreal. I would have been in Montreal. Right. Anyway, we can pass that by. So, carbon tax protesters shut down the press's Diagolon claims. Right.
Yes. Do you remember yesterday?
I knew they would. Yeah.
Yesterday, I said, why hasn't anybody gone to the camp and talked to these people?
Yeah.
They keep this Diagolon thing going. They keep bringing it up. In the House of Commons, they're calling them white supremacists and misogynists and Diagolon. And when you really look into the Diagolon thing, it really isn't much anything. It is an ideology, an accelerational ideology. But the main thing here is when others went to the camp. Now, no journalists, as I know, from the main journalists went to the camp. So a conservative, and unfortunately, the only one I could find was this conservative True North press went to the camp and talked to the people about the Diagolon symbol that was there and other things. Well, it turns out that nobody in the camp has any association with the Diagolon people or the guy, Jeremy Mackenzie, who began it. Apparently that Diagolon thing was put there sometime when this group was in Ottawa for the Freedom Convoy. They had a heated area where people could come and warm up, and people would sign things and put as they came in. So put signs and or signatures on that camper or whatever it was, and somebody put that one there, but it had no relationship to the people who were doing the carbon tax. Now, nowhere did I see that. Not on Global News, not on CBC News, not on CTV News. They all kept doing the Diagolon thing instead of going to the camp and asking them. They didn't even send one reporter, as far as I can see. And what they've done, according to this particular article, is they take the cue from Canada Hate website or whatever, which is federally run, and they just take verbatim what is on their site. Now that's why I really hate the reporting that we have, because it's so agenda driven. It's one-sided. All you have to do is send one lousy reporter, one local reporter from the local news station there in Nova Scotia or New Brunswick, wherever that it was, just on the borderline. All you had to do was send one reporter. Even a kid in journalist school could have got there and interviewed those people and found out that they had no Diagolon association. And the other thing is,
what you say
Diagolon really being really explained. Go ahead.
What you say makes a great deal of sense. And hey, if there's a diagram this big on a wall, well, that's hardly prominent, is it?
No. And look here also, one of the Diagolon's nutcases, I think the leader, threatened to rape Poilievre's wife. So can you ever think, that was a couple of years ago, and Poilievre set the RCMP on them. Can anyone really believe that Poilievre is going to associate himself with Diagolon when the founder of Diagolon threatened to rape his wife?
Of course.
Seriously? And Diagolon itself is not really, I suppose there's some people who believe in it, but it's not meant to be believed according to those people who created it. The goat that's on their symbol is supposed to be a drugged out a coke-headed goat by the name of Philip. So you can't really say that that's very serious stuff. And the Diagolon is supposed to be from Alaska in a diagonal way right down to Florida, and that's going to be a new land. Well, most of it's a tongue-in-cheek thing, according to this article. But if anybody believes that, they're on the level of flat Earth societies. So I can't really see them being. There is no real evidence of them at present for being white supremacists.
And this person here says us being with Diagolon is just grasping at soggy paper straws, and this is one of the protesters saying that.
Yeah. Now, this is what I hate about our reporting. This has allowed the liberals a lot of leeway, saying the white supremacists, misogynists, conservatives associating themselves with that. And there's no stopping it because the press will not dig in. The main press will not say, well, this is what we found. And as long as that doesn't happen, the liberals can keep going on and on about that. And the NDP can go on and on about that, even though both the NDP and the liberals know that that's not the case in this particular case. But there's no way that the conservatives can defend themselves because of the symbol that they found there. And if you don't get, and that's why the conservatives are bumming out about CBC too. Where is the CBC? CBC could send a reporter down there and saying, well, it appears that Diagolon really doesn't have much to do with this group at all. And so the games they're playing in Parliament right now. Now, I'd be critical of Polyev for overstating things before. Now I have to be critical of the liberals for overstating things. This is a silly game they're playing. Get back to the truth, boys.
Yeah. And we can leave it exactly there because I think that kind of states it. See if we've got any comments. JT hikes himself likes hearing himself talk, so if he mentions Diagolon enough, people will believe it. Yeah, there's an element of that for sure in our parliamentary system.
Well, look how he characterized the convoy as misogynists and racists. And how can it be racist when the First Nations were the ones that brought the convoy into Ottawa? And they keep saying they're white supremacists and stuff. And Six had a big tent up feeding people during the convoy.
Yeah.
They talked to black people, they talked to indigenous people, they talked to everybody, and yet they still played that stupid game. And of course the liberal faithful will buy anything. So will the conservative faithful too. So we have to be very careful here. Then
we do.
So all I want is old-fashioned reporting, objective as much as possible. It's impossible to be totally objective, but we want objective reporting. We want to return to that. And this is a good example of how the press is really not doing their job.
Yeah, and I think we can move on from there. Yeah. Okay, so opponents are saying that planned housing projects are threatening the Niagara escarpment. So developers want to build hundreds of townhouses on land in Ontario's Beaver Valley, and they're basically saying, no, well, let's put a stop to this.
Well, apparently there are 6,600 recreational sites along the escarpment. And of course, they probably predate the Niagara Escarpment Commission protection before they were protected lands. However, now we have in a place called Kimberley, a place that used to be recreational property. They used to have ski hills and stuff like that, and they are now sold that property and it's up for development. This is a critical moment for the escarpment. At a time when everybody needs more houses, that's the argument going to be used. But because of where it is, it's going to be exclusive housing. You can bet people are going to be wanting it there because of the views, because of its closeness to the escarpment. Wonderful place to live. beautiful. However, do you want to let that kind of development happen there?
Exactly. I do have questions about this. Why isn't it used as a ski hill? Why wouldn't it continue to be used as a ski hill? There's a lot of people who love skiing. A lot of people, we could bring in one of the things I have about this area is we have very little winter visitors because we don't have any skiing, but yet we have the snow for skiing much of the time, but yet we don't have, we haven't developed any ski resorts here.
Well, there's a couple of different reasons. Once, we don't really have highlands for ski. They do in New York State and close by in Vermont and
we have places where we could ski. There's some superb valleys I know of that if you were to develop them into ski resorts, and you can make the argument that, hey, I'm off my rocker, but you could develop these into ski resorts, and they have superb downhill slopes.
Well, there's a thing called climate change happening now, which is ruining ski hills in Vermont and New England and Western New York. I used to go down to Ellicottville and do skiing. You could do that every year. You can't do that every year now because you can't rely on the snowfall. Even that is even affecting places like in Kimberley, where this particular ski resort used to be. And they haven't had skiing there since 2011. And I bet it's because of mild winters. It's just like we don't have open ice rinks here in like we used to have. It's because we can't hold the ice any longer. The weather has changed. For whatever reason, the weather has changed. It has changed. So I'm not going to bring in the arguments that will get everybody frosted.
No,
but
I get you.
It is very clear by the evidence that climate change is going on, and we are getting warm. We're going into a big warming spell, and that means we have less snow and less ice to deal with. So and plus the wimpification of the Ontarian. The Ontarians used to be hardy people. They used to strap on their skis, get out in the winter, and do a lot of winter sports. Now everybody just wimps out and stays inside and does video games. When there was a good snowfall, anytime there was a good snowfall, I'd go for a walk, and I expect to see kids on the weekend playing in the schoolyard or in big piles of snow like we did. Never see it. They don't come out until the snow goes away. And so the wimpification of the Ontario population is part of it. You're going to get less and less skiers because it takes effort and physical effort to do it. And people are just happier to stay inside on a treadmill. So that's part of it. But the real issue here is, do we want a development on the escarpment? And this is going to be left up to two bodies. It's going to be the Niagara Escarpment Commission, and it's going to be left to the Grey Highland County municipality, and they're the ones that are going to be the ones that either approve or disapprove of this, and it will take both of them to do it. There's no protection anymore. The escarpment protection has been abandoned, says Mike Cushman.
Yeah. And the other thing about this one, that went all weird on me. The other thing about this one is that, where this is actually just south of Blue Mountain. It's probably about 30, 40, maybe 50 kilometers south of Blue Mountain. This
is going to be coveted land to be developed. It's going to be coveted areas for people from the GTA to get to buy homes or whatever. A lot of the farmland up there is being bought out by people from the GTA. If you go up to Collingwood or places in and around there, these wonderful looking old farms, they're all being bought and developed, and they have huge mansions on them from people from the GTA that buy them. And I'm not so sure they're letting their land being produced. But of course, the farmer, they're selling the farm as is, so they can't break it up. But still, those farmlands, are they being productive? I don't know. So that I mean, the wealthy come in and they want to buy these pristine places and be out in the country and all that other stuff. And it gives them some kind of odd feeling that they're country folk now on the weekends. But that's going to carry on because wealthy people will want what they want, and they're going to use their influence, and they're going to buy hunks of land, and they're going to push for developments like that. If they can get a house on the escarpment, wonderful, how wonderful that would be. And then another bunch of wealthy people will do it. And then pretty soon the escarpment belongs to them, and you can't cross this path because it belongs to somebody. So this is where we can nip it in the bud right here, make it very clear that this is off limits. It is already a recreational zone. Do not switch it to residential.
And this is massively. It's not exactly in commuting distance to Toronto.
Doesn't matter. You can do all your work on computers these days.
I know, but I'm saying it's not in commuter distance to Toronto. But again, that's exactly what I was going to lead on to. That it becomes ideal land in some respects because a lot of people are not working in offices anymore. Yeah.
Well, look, my oldest boy, I don't think he's been to an office maybe 2 or 3 times in the last 3 years.
Yeah.
He works all entirely from home.
Yeah. But again, is his a home near his office?
No. It's an hour down the road.
Yeah. Okay. So it's still near his office. What I'm saying is not 3,000 kilometers away.
No, but I mean, if you're talking about the Kimberley on the escarpment, you're 150 kilometers. That's a 2-hour drive.
Yeah.
To Toronto.
Yeah.
So you're still in the zone where you can do your work from home. And it really, sometimes it doesn't really matter how close you are, as long as you got internet connections with your place of work. You could be all over the world.
Yeah, I know.
You can, as a matter of fact, you could be doing a big engineering project someplace in Africa and communicating with New York and London and Toronto, whoever you need to be, whoever the engineering, say it's Brown and Root from London, right? So you're working with Brown and Root from London, and you're on site and they're in London, right? You very rarely will have to have somebody from London come to on site.
Interesting, Brown and Root from London, because I used to work with an engineering consultancy way back. Brown and Root were part of the things they did work with.
They were part of the longest man-made river, and they were just doing that as starting that when I was leaving Libya. The largest man-made river is in Libya. It comes from Sarir all the way to the coast, and Brown and Root was a big part of that. And I got drunk a couple of times with their engineers in Benghazi.
Yeah, don't know about that particular project, but yeah, okay, that's good. Yeah, all right, interesting. Yeah, and the point being is that whilst we can make these, I'm not entirely sure that looking at the picture that I see here, which is basically what is obviously a ski hill, basically tree covered routes, tree covered hill where there's clear lanes down that you can ski down, and what at the bottom of the valley looks more like a golf course than anything else. A continued lanes and people can shoot a ball up and down with lakes and things on it. I'm not entirely sure that's appropriate for development anyway.
Well, yes, and I'll have to leave it there. Please continue, but I have certain things I must attend to, and that's why I have to leave early. So without further ado, I bid you adieu, everyone. Pray for peace, and see you tomorrow.
All right. Well, thank you, Dave, for being here. And anyway, thanks. And with that, that we'll actually call it a day, I think, for today. I think we've said our piece. Dave said his piece in relation to that. I'm still very much interested on how we're going to shorten council meetings, because I think there's, let's be honest and blunt about it, there's too much hot air in those meetings often anyway. And it's largely about, oh, I'm your councillor and I wish to be elected at the next election. I'm the perfect person for you. This is me. Vote for me. And hey, we've had enough of that. Let's move on. If you've got a point to make it. If you got no point to make, and I'll be honest, there's got to be times whereby people, hey, you like a building, you don't like a building. No need to say right thing for the right place. It's not necessary. We've heard that too many times before. Tell us why you don't like it. Tell us why you like it. Let's move on. All right. And I think with that thought, I'm just going to call it quits. Okay. And thanks everybody for being here, and we'll be back again tomorrow with Dave. Thank you. Bye.